Awesome, awesome.
So, so what's the history of that house? Who owned it? I mean, originally, who built it? Do you know?
I know the people. I know some of the history. I know the Jewish temple owned it back in the '60s, and then they sold it. And before them, I'm not sure. I did actually see in like the newspaper or something a file that showed someone died in this house um, in the 1900s, but um, it wasn't called Capitol. It was called, I forget the name, but a different name.
Maple.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
So we looked up 312 Capitol and it didn't come up with anything, but 312 Maple it did, and it was this house. So that I did not know that the names were different back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. It's pretty cool. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we have 7 people who've logged on right now, so I guess it's official. We are live. This is Michael McCullough from Willard Library, and my guest today is Charlie Fulbright. Charlie. Charlie is the president of BC Pride. He is a member of the Battle Creek Public School Board of Education. Got that out. And he works for the federal government at the Federal Center. And if he told us what he did, he said he'd have to kill us.
Just
Well,
kidding.
just kidding. Yeah. Well, welcome, Charlie. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Charlie and I have a history here. We worked together. I've been on the planning committee representing Willard Library on the BC Pride Festival the last 2 years. This year, of course, it was all virtual. And Charlie and I co-hosted a game show on Zoom that we shared. We didn't do it live like this because he was chicken. He wanted to pre-record it.
I didn't want any bloopers.
But then we had a blooper, and you said that was okay.
Right.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for the invite.
So Charlie, tell everybody a little. I always want to bring people on that are active in the community and let them tell a little bit about what they do. And we were talking about you being on the school board, and you've been on there for how long now?
Yeah, so I've been on for 2 years. 2020 will be my second year, and I was appointed. So my term was only for 2 years, and then I'd have to, if I wanted to keep going, run for re-election, actually be on the ballot. So I'm doing it because I think I make a difference, and I enjoy doing it.
What do you like about it?
I like helping our kids. I like being a education promoter and safety promoter for our children. And I think being a foster parent previously gave me even more of a drive to be involved in the students in our community. And Battle Creek Public Schools is my community. So
yeah. And so we talked a little bit before we came live about just the challenges that you're having right now. I mean, obviously, every school district is going through a lot right now. Tell us a little bit where you are and what your hopes are and what your fears are.
Yeah, so it's so weird because every time you turn on the news, every school district is different, every state is different, every community is different. But Battle Creek Public Schools is offering a plan that has choices. So a virtual academy, a in-person learning for K through 5, and a remote learning for 6 through 12. And then we play it by ear because the governor, we have different outcomes based on what phase we're in. So we just have to keep looking at that and get guidance from the governor.
Yeah, it's got to be a lot of pressure, though. Do you hear from families a lot?
Yes, especially in the last month, on both sides, and it's my job to be there and be there for the students and hear what the community has to say because my vote affects the Battle Creek Public School District community, and I've heard from both sides of the fence on yes to open them back up, no to keep them closed, and ultimately it comes down to 7 votes, and whichever way the school board goes, I will back. So I did not vote for the plan, the proposal, but I 100% support it because our board is looking out for our students. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then of course there's sports. We
that's
you,
a whole nother ball game. Yes, ball game. Yeah,
wow, Charlie, you did it. You did a sports
I
metaphor.
know.
Amazing. That was a running joke about how sports metaphors were over Charlie's head. So
Right.
there we go.
Very much so.
So, and BC Pride, you are the president this year, but you've been affiliated with BC Pride from the beginning, I think.
Um, for the last 9 years, so when we first became incorporated in 2010, I think 2011 is when I started on the board, and I've been there ever since. And I'm actually super excited because this year I am taking a sabbatical. So after December 31st, I will be half as involved as I am now, and not have to make the hard decisions and still of course be involved and supportive, and because that's what I love to do, but I'm taking a step back and letting someone else take the reins.
Well, you got a lot of good people who are really involved there too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And just as long as we're still going to do LGBTQ and A together.
Yes,
That was the name
that
of the
was
game show.
that is, and I can't, that was of course our first year doing it, and I think even if we do have a physical pride next year, we need to have that game show again, and you need to host it because you were great.
Well, thank you very much. I think we were a great team. We had good chemistry.
Yes, we did.
And Kim Carter, superintendent of Battle Creek Public Schools, did very, very well, but she fell short.
She got second place, but hey, she was the runner up, but she did great, and I think that just shows that the places that I love to advocate for, like the school district and education and the LGBTQ community, are all intertwined, and we all support each other. And I think we need to support each other, especially during these unprecedented times.
Yeah, and I was being a little facetious. Nobody fell short. Everybody had a great time, but she is competitive. You can tell. But Susan Baldwin carried the day, and she talked about how she boned up. She studied,
Right.
the city commissioner. So it was a lot of fun.
It was.
So when I asked you to come on the show, this was the book you recommended. Let's see if we can see it. There we go. Dear Evan Hansen. Woo! And I had never read it. I had not seen the musical, and nor had I seen Rent, which we also talked about. But I finished this today, and thank you so much. It was a great read. But tell me about why you picked it and why the book means so much to you.
Yeah, so my first thought was, I love musicals, and musicals tell a story, and Dear Evan Hansen is a great musical and storyline. But then I thought, well, Dear Evan Hansen made a novel from that musical, so it's a great book to read. So I had that book on in my office, so I thought that's the book we're going to do. So
tell people a little bit what the storyline is, what the arc is.
Yeah, so it's about high school students and their life, and it touches really a lot on depression and grief and suicide, and it's very real. It's something that could happen nowadays, and it's very deep and emotional, and it's a good life lesson to read.
Yeah, but I told you that it was one of the most stressful reads, because to talk a little bit more about the story for those who haven't read it. Evan Hansen, who's kind of a loner, I would say. His parents are divorced. He's having a tough time. He has a lot of anxiety. He kind of keeps to himself. And through just kind of a series of misalignments and misunderstandings, ends up like having this like facade of a story about being the best friend of a classmate who actually had bullied him early in this story, but who had committed suicide. and it builds up, and it just kind of like takes on a life of its own, right? And it's and so you're as a reader, I'm just sitting there thinking this is going to blow up, and I'm just like all stressed waiting for this to happen because you get all invested in the characters, and you really do identify with Evan Hansen because you're in his head, and you know how much he's struggling. But what I wanted to say about it is, in spite of the heavy subject matter, it's actually a very entertaining read. I mean, there's a lot of humor in it, and just even the relationships that he is struggling with. I find myself really identifying with that, right? Because I can remember going through
Absolutely.
the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's written in a first person narrative, so it's very easy, I think, to relate to Evan Hansen. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any part of it that you wanted to share with us?
I did. Well, so it's funny because at the beginning of this book, which is the part I want to read, it's actually before the book starts. It says, Dear reader, today is going to be an amazing day, and here's why. So, first off, that's like I don't want to say the catchphrase, but that's what gets used a lot throughout the book and the musical. So, today is going to be a good day, an amazing day, and here's why. You are cracking open a new book. And whether you're already familiar with these characters from seeing the musical, listening to the soundtrack, or watching videos online, or you have no idea who Evan Hansen is, but you thought the tree on the cover was cool, we're so happy you're here. We hope you love reading about these characters as much as we love creating them, and that this story makes you think and feel and connect. So that's just like the intro before it even starts the actual read, and I just love this book. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Um,
And the title comes from his therapist has asked him to write letters to himself.
right.
Um, and it's an exercise that Evan Hansen doesn't take very seriously for until the end of the book, really, right?
Right.
But uh, and so it's a constant refrain in the book, and it's interesting because when he to give the story plot away a little bit, he is called to the office. He had written a letter, and a very brutally honest letter about how, like, this isn't going to be a great day. It's going to be a lousy day. Yesterday was a lousy day, and tomorrow's going to be. I'm paraphrasing, probably misquoting. Um, and his one hope is this girl he has a crush on, and he mentions that in the story. And Connor, this other character, finds or picks this letter off the printer, and he takes the letter because that's Zoe, the girl, is Connor's sister.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Connor subsequently kills himself, and Evan is called to the office, and because that letter is to him, they think it was Connor writing to him, and he just goes with it.
Right.
And that's the whole origin of the story. Um, and so even in the process of the story, he finds that being honest with himself actually got him in deeper trouble. But
Mm-hmm.
then it does get him in a relationship with Zoe. So then as the reader, you're just, oh wow, this wonderful thing is happening to him, and it's all gonna blow up.
Right.
It was just really hard.
Sincerely me. That's how it always the letters end.
So, but you when you suggested it, you said it was very personal to you. So I just want to plumb that a little bit.
Yeah.
And you were really active in high school. I told you, I looked up your name in the newspaper. He's like the president of the Lakeview Diversity Club, and I think it was called
Right.
something else before that. And you got awards. You were quite active.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know Enneagram 2, I'm a Enneagram 2, and I love helping people and being an advocate for anything really. And it started in high school, and we didn't have a gay straight alliance, and um, I thought when I was in high school, a gay straight alliance was too controversial. Like it would just get shot down. So
Yeah.
we renamed it. And I got all my girlfriends together and we were all thinking of names and we called it ESOS, which was Equality and Safety of Students Everywhere. And that became our diversity club. And we didn't just do the LGBTQ community, we did all marginalized groups. And it
Right.
was amazing. And I'm very happy that we started that. And that was like the kickoff to me being out there and being an advocate for people. But every great story has ups and downs, and I came out in 10th grade, so I came out pretty early. But there's always I was never suicidal, but there's always grief and depression with how people treat you and how the world is going to treat you. And um, it's funny because in high school, I was very much, I feel like very much liked, and I didn't have really enemies, and it was fine. But once I graduated and got into the real world, it was all different. Like, oh yeah, people don't like gay people, or oh, people don't like whatever. So being part of Battle Creek Pride really boosted me up again because um, they were the adult GSA for our community that got me back on track and out of any funk that I was in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that sense of isolation, and that's one of the things I love about the book is, you know, every kid has a facade that they're putting up to some degree, right? I mean, I don't want to be too universal in that, but a lot of times people outwardly may look like they have friends, they're getting along, but they carry something in them that makes them feel different or makes them feel like they don't belong. And it happens a lot with kids who come from really tough backgrounds. They go to school to be normal, right? They go to school to
Yeah,
fit in and to feel like they belong to something. It's one of the things I really worry about during this long shutdown is, how many kids, young people, or adults, but young people for sure, who don't have that, and how important that is to their health and sense of well-being and sense of self-worth.
right.
Um, and so, this book, you know, I, I, uh, I marked a whole bunch of stuff in it too. Although I have to say that I listened to it because it's tough to find the time to read a book and work and all that stuff. So I listened to it, then I bookmark the audio, and then I'd find it in the print book and mark it so I could actually read it from you. But there was so much in here. I remember the "Panic has a salty taste" passage.
Hmm.
That's where he was describing his fear. And I'm just going to share a bit of that with our audience now. Panic has a salty taste. It's like I'm standing in a small glass tank, and the tank is filling up with water. I'm guessing the water is coming from the sea because of the saltiness. The seawater rushes into my tank. It's already at my mouth. In a moment, it'll cover my face, and I'll drown. There's no way out of the tank. All I can do is wait as the water surrounds me. I stretch my neck up for that last bit of air. I'm gasping. And then, when I can barely catch my breath, it stops. The water recedes, always. I never end up drowning, but it doesn't matter. The feeling of almost drowning is even worse than actually drowning. Actually drowning is peace. Almost drowning is pure pain. And, that just kind of really resonated with me. That,
That's hard. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this sense that when you are in that state of isolation and it triggers that fight or flight response, that fear is just real. And we talk a lot about how young people who um, find themselves in trouble, they're acting from that place of fear, and how do we often react to them is more punishment,
Mhm.
which only further exasperates that sense of isolation. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm a fuck up. I'm whatever the case
Right.
might be. Um, and and the antidote to that kind of fear is welcoming and belonging and breaking through that loneliness. So just a whole lot to unpack.
Very much so. Um, yeah, I think, I mean, it hits home with even because this is school related, they're in high school, trauma informed teachings and having um, I mean, I guess just the teachers be trained on mental health or trauma because this story is a real thing. It could happen to any student in any district in any school.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. One of the things I love about the story, though, or about the book, is I mentioned before how the stress level, and I'm one of those people that when things get awkward on TV, I turn it off. Like I'm embarrassed for these fictional characters on TV, you know? Um, and so I was carrying that stress the whole time. Well, the worst did happen, you know, the worst did happen. And
Mm-hmm.
it ended up healing people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it ended up healing the people who are most vulnerable. And in fact, Zoe, the younger sister of Connor, when she and Evan finally do speak, and Evan is carrying around this incredible guilt. Like, I mean, it's hard to not have read the story and understand just how he was carried away with events and not really wanting to do what he did, but did it, not knowing what
Mm-hmm.
else to do. And he's racked with this guilt about how he raised up their hopes so much about how their son had a life and had friends, and then it all turned out to be a lie. But it ended up bringing everybody closer together. It ended up bringing Evan closer to his mother, who he is having a really hard time with. It made him feel more equipped. Possibly, you get the idea, to actually be a part of his father's life, 1,800 miles away. His father has a new child. He feels abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he and Zoe, you don't know that they're ever going to be romantically involved again, but everything is okay. And you know, it it's that sense of, we inflate what the worst could be in our minds, and it just kind of, we dig our heels in and we withdraw even more. um,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not meant to be dismissive of the fear, and not to say that bad things don't happen when you confront. um, but there's a certain liberation in it. And I haven't seen the musical, and I'm sure, since it came first, that is the message that comes through in the musical as well.
Uh, yes. Well, and I love musicals and love songs. And this is my second favorite musical, right behind Rent. So, yeah, this is a great music, great storyline. I mean, it's funny because usually you hear um, musicals or movies come from novels or books, but it's the opposite in here in this situation, which I'm not really that familiar with. A book coming from a musical.
Oh, I've been remiss, Charlie. We've had a whole bunch of comments from different
Uh-oh.
people.
Gee,
Yeah.
Cooper.
Yeah. So Paul Harold, who is a schoolmate of mine from a long time ago, um, I knew him when he was a little guy. Yes, it's on Audible. And Patrick, we know Patrick. Patrick used to work at the Inquirer with me. Now, does he still work at the Federal Center?
Um, I don't think so. I don't
Uh,
know because I haven't been there since March.
oh,
So,
okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, and Jade, my colleague, says it's a great soundtrack. So yes, please check out the book. And thank you everybody for commenting. I honestly wasn't watching because last week I got 0 comments. So and the lyrics for "You Will Be Found" made me cry.
I was just gonna. I have a little note to say to remind to at some point during this, the anthem to this book to this musical. is the song "You Will Be Found," and you can YouTube it. "You Will Be Found," Dear Evan Hansen. It's an amazing song. Yes, it'll make you cry. Um, yeah, it's just the words are very moving, and so you'll have to listen to that, Mac,
Yeah.
after this.
I was hoping you would sing for us.
Mm.
Well, yeah. I told you one program I sang, a cappella. You
Yeah.
should do it. So, but we're almost up on a half hour. One thing I do want to mention, and then if we're not on a timer, so if you want to keep talking, we can. But we usually try to keep the show to about half an hour. The significance of the tree, it's on the cover, obviously.
Mhm.
And at least my recollection, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my recollection, in the beginning of the story, Evan has a cast on his arm. He had fallen from a tree, and he talks a lot about lying under the tree, thinking somebody was going to come and save him, but nobody did. And in this ruse that sort of kind of ran away from him, Connor and him had climbed a tree, and Evan had fallen out of the tree, and Connor was there for him.
Mhm.
But if it was early in the book, I didn't pick up on it. But later in the book, the revelation to me was that Evan had himself given up and had let himself go out of the tree, and
Mhm.
so it was a suicide attempt, an unsuccessful one, obviously. And I and I don't know, it just in hindsight, it should have been kind of obvious, but throughout the story, you didn't really. I don't think he really truly faced it. And I just want to read this one paragraph passage, and this is after he and Zoe, who had not been together or talked to each other in a year, they meet in the apple orchard, which I won't give away any more of the story. You're just gonna have to read it. But they were reading, and as she was leaving off, um, he had been writing a letter, which now he has taken this exercise seriously to help him heal himself and to help him
Mhm.
manage his anxiety and manage his fear and get on with life and be himself. And the last part of his letter is, maybe someday some other kid is going to be standing here staring out at the trees, feeling alone, wondering if maybe the world might look better from all the way up there. Better. Maybe he'll start climbing, one branch at a time, and he'll keep going, even when it seems like he can't find another foothead, even when it feels hopeless, like everything is telling him to let go. Maybe this time he won't let go. This time he'll hold on. He'll keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a moment with that.
Right. I had a lot of moments in
Yeah.
this book.
Yeah, me too. So
I did want, can I really quick read something else?
you can take all the time you want.
At the end, well, and this isn't really, I mean, it's in the book, but it's not part of the story. But I feel like this topic uh, isn't, or could be uh, put out there more. So this is actually a note from the authors, and it says, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, a staggering 123 suicides occur every day on average in the United States. This story is a work of fiction, but the reality is that anyone, anywhere can feel as if they have nobody to reach out to. No one should ever feel that. No one should ever feel they have to suffer in silence. We need to keep talking about mental health and continue to reach out to those who might be suffering. If you or a loved one are in need of help, please know you are not alone. And that's from the authors, and I think that's also what's a true statement. I mean, it's yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there is help out there. And but yeah, that piece about not being alone. um, yeah, you're not alone.
Right.
Even though sometimes the world makes you feel alone. So that was the other.
Especially during this COVID time, like it's even more pertinent that we connect with each other, however we do it,
Yeah,
just because I think it's easier being isolated and alone and feel depressed during this time.
yeah, yeah. And Leah Ortiz, who is the executive director of the ARC of Calhoun County. She is putting up a number in there. If anybody ever feels the need to talk, thank you, Leah. I was just beating myself up for not having the forethought to actually have that ready to put up. So once again, you're there for me. Appreciate it. So anyway, thank you so much, Charlie. It's always fun to spend time with you virtually and in person.
Yes, I'm sorry my background is green. I thought I could, this is my green screen room, and I thought I could change it up, but apparently not. So you have a cool fire. I have a green background.
Yeah, I did see you use it though with the Zoom thing. You had all the ads up, so
Right.
that'd be pretty cool. So anyway, thank you again, and thanks to everybody who came on. Next week we have Elizabeth Garcia, who's had a number of roles. She works over in Kalamazoo right now, but she has been with VOSAs in the past and works with kids, and she has given me some ambitious things to read in the next few days. So I'll see if I can get them done. But it's always fun, and hope you all come back next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.